Hey Exiles, welcome to the 8th episode of the Pod of Exile, juiced by Mobalytics. I am here with Sirgog, Dreamcore, and Lolcohol to talk about all things 0.4, the last of the Druids, Fate of the Vaal, the Christmas patch from Grinding Gear Games. It has a lot packed into it and a few things that are lacking. We're going to talk about all of them here today together. I think we're going to start with something that many people are keen on. However, there's some caveats here. What's still looking strong and what obviously got crushed by the past notes? And we're going to talk about this without a key piece of information. The passive skill tree, which is probably massively changed at this point. So I'd like to cede the floor to whoever would like to pipe up about this first. What's looking strong? What do you think got crushed? Maybe Lolcohol? You've released one build video already, I think.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of what's good, nades are still good. I've seen so many people now saying like, "Oh, nades are good this patch." Like, nades are good this patch. I'm like, dude, nades have been broken for since launch, and it feels like people are only realizing now. Like, I know some people were playing it, but like some bigger creators are now starting to realize. Starting to see everyone now saying like, "Nades are so good this patch." They've always been good. They just somehow are not getting nerfed. I imagine next league, especially if people like Fubgun, bigger guys are going to be playing it, then it needs to be nerfed. It's too strong.
I
But
know you did a highlight video, or your build last league was all nades, but I feel like
yeah,
maybe it would have came to the surface after the races when all the like everybody was going grenades and just blowing
that,
up everything, right?
what's weird is that for the Clutch Core event, I think I was one of the few people who actually went nades on that and Merc. And
Yeah.
then I'm not saying I influenced it, like no shot. Like I'm a trenched here speedrunner, but I did notice after that, then it did seem to pick up more and more and more. Um, I don't know what influenced that. In terms of what got crushed, I don't know. Life sacking on Blood Witch with like
Oh yeah.
Wrathpith Globe and all of that. What else? Dream and Gog will be better at identifying all the nerfs. Why don't you hit it off, Dream?
I mean, in terms of things that are still good, the right side of the tree still seems to be extremely strong. Even if Deadeye got nerfed, and Windward was a huge nerf, by the way. Like, there's no getting around that. That is a giant nerf. Deadeye is actually just still very good because the movement speed is still there for the class, and as we know, like movement speed is very very good because you can get so much damage that the next best thing is like movement speed and rarity and things like that. But yeah, generally speaking, because we don't have the passive tree and we don't really know what they've updated.
Right.
I mean, we know that there's a bunch of new nodes, right, on that area where the druid's being introduced, but we don't know what they've done to other nodes on the tree, really, other than we had some things in the patch notes. But what's going on with the patch notes now is like every day there's like a bunch of new stuff being added, so we don't know how much stuff they're going to continue to add, or how many things might not even be like added in the patch notes, but then they're just there on the passive tree. So I do think it's kind of crazy that we're 2 days out from launch and we don't have the three most important things. We don't have the druid ascendancies, we don't have the passive tree, we don't have the skills. Like, that is actually insane. Surely you'd have one of those things or two of those things by now, right? But
it's a great point, and I guess I didn't realize it. I don't remember this stuff because I don't do a ton of like build prep, but apparently this is the norm for PoE too. Like, has it been like this every league, you guys? Like, they release it the day before?
Yes, well, it wasn't the day, but I think they didn't release the last time they did the big change on the passive tree, they just didn't release it. They basically just said you can explore it, like, and find it yourself. Which, the crazy thing about this is that there's a very clear difference of how they approach each game. And this is definitely deliberate, because it's not like they didn't say like, oh, okay, we just can't do it because we don't have time or something like that. Like with PoE 1, whenever they add these kind of things to the game, they're very quick to be able to sort of show them off before launch because they kind of know that the player base wants those things. And it's almost as if like over the years they know that the player base just won't settle without them, right? It's like they need those things. Whereas perhaps they're trying to kind of cultivate a different audience with PoE2 that kind of approaches the game differently and maybe doesn't Maybe they think that if they start to do these things, right, every release, they then always have to do them. So perhaps they want to keep it how they're doing it now, and then that way, like, they're not setting the precedent that this will always be like that. But I don't know. Like, personally, for the type of game that PoE2 is, if there's a new class and there's tree changes, I always want that stuff before launch. Like, I'm sorry, that's just the type of game that it is. I want that stuff so that I can, like, plan and things like that. It's not the type of... It's just not the type of game where you, like, go in and spend so much time, like, exploring and stuff. I know some people do that, but most people don't. Yeah, it's just... I want those things.
Before bringing Sirgog in, yeah, I think you're right. Most people, especially that are participating in like discussions on the forums or Reddit and YouTube, yeah, they want prep. They want prep. Most of the people who are going in blind, essentially, they're not. I don't think they talk that much on forums, and they don't speculate. They don't tune into streams. They want to see that sort of stuff. I also wanted to bring up the fact of maybe what's also going on is just there is so much still in flux with balance. They don't want to have a repeat of probably what they've seen with PoE1, where they put something in the patch notes and then they massively like nerf it or change it right before. Because what
that is definitely possible,
right? Because Jonathan said, "Oh, we realized a whole bunch of Druid stuff wasn't viable endgame, so now we're buffing thing like the wolves apparently just didn't survive, and they're trying to craft endgame builds right now, and they're gonna post them before, or they said they're gonna post them before launch. We're 2 days out."
Yeah.
So it's kind of wild to see what's going on.
That's what I mean. They're like giving themselves like extra work with that video.
Yeah.
Like they didn't need to do that. Like give us a passage tree. We'll do that, right? We'll do the theory craft with the build. Just give us a passage tree and stuff. You know.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it, Sirgog?
Yeah. So in terms of the builds, like people are going to be excited by Druid, but I feel like Druid's going to be one of those things that because we don't have the prep time, I'm not starting a Druid. If we had the prep time, I might, but I think it's just going to be a case of the campaign on a weak build is a 20-hour investment. On a strong build, it's not, but on a weak build, it's a 20-hour investment, and I don't want to spend 20 hours on something that's going to be rubbish, and it will be rubbish because we don't know how to optimize it. The other thing that's going to be a huge consequence of that is that everyone's experience on the Druid is going to be hampered by the fact that their build is going to suck because, you know, it's just not optimized. It's the same as if you play Path of Exile 1 and you just try to throw together Lightning Arrow on the fly. Lightning Arrow is a reasonably good skill in Path of Exile 1, despite many nerfs. It's not OP, but it's solid. But if you just put it together without knowing what you're doing, you're going to end up with something that's a mess. You get to endgame, you'll be able to do Eater and Exarch, but you're going to end up like it's going to be a lot slower than other things. Now, my fear is that they're then going to say, oh, look, everyone that's playing the Druid is struggling, so we need to buff X, Y, Z. But X, Y, and Z didn't need to be buffed. What needed to happen was people needed to know to use X, Y, and Z with A, B, and C respectively. Just like Lightning Spear in 0.2.0. If you played Lightning Spear without Vault support, it was mediocre. In 0.2.0, it was not a very strong skill. It was serviceable, but it wasn't great. The instant you got Vault support onto it, you were God mode. And the problem was that by the time the player base had realized that, they'd already buffed Lightning Spear to the point that it became 48% of the meta.
Right.
I think we might see the same thing happen again because Grinding Gear Games haven't learnt from 0.2.0.
That's my fear, that there's going to be a replication of 0.2 with Dawn of the Hunt was, I mean, it was disastrous, the launch. Of course, it didn't have as much content packed into it as this release does because this has like the full league and everything, but it was releasing a new class. Everybody was kind of blind. It was a very new play style that they were introducing as well, encouraging the different combo play, going into melee, coming out of melee. They're doing the same thing with the Druid. In fact, I'd reckon it looks like it's more reliant on comboing stuff together and having all these different buff up times. So I think you guys might be onto something, and it's a little scary. It definitely is scary.
It is, but it depends on... yeah?
I was going to say, combo stuff can be a lot of fun, but it's not guaranteed to be fun. It can be not, but it's also just really polarizing, and that's something that's difficult where you got this thing where there's a play style that maybe 15% of the player base are going to love, 85% are going to try it and bounce. but you're not going to know whether you're in the 15% or the 85% until you've gotten quite a way. For that reason, I'm strongly suggest people play a druid as your second character, not your first.
Yeah. But it does depend on what kind of player you are. So a lot of people, their goal is to get into the end game, blast end game maps, make lots of currency, do big crafts and stuff. If that's your goal, don't play druid. Not at all. But other people, they don't mind the kind of like theory crafting on the fly, going at their own speed. They're not concerned with how long it takes them to get to the campaign, through the campaign. Like the experience of playing something new, solving it, figuring it out along the way is the fun for them. But respecking in PoE 2 is not cheap. It's not only not cheap with gold, it's not cheap with supports, which are incredibly scarce in the campaign. And so are skill gems. Skill gems are also incredibly scarce in the campaign still. So, like, the scary thing is you maybe get a bit unlucky and you like pick the wrong thing and you don't find enough uncut support gems to test everything. And then you wake up the next morning and it turns out, oh wait, this is actually really strong. But now you don't have the gold, the supports, the skill gems. And if that sounds scary to you, then avoid druid at all costs.
Yeah. You're describing me as a player. I think I'm a little different than the three of you, especially you, Sirgog. Sounds like you're going to play some meta skill and get into endgame to start working the market.
I'm the same way as Lolcohol. I'm going grenades.
Grenades?
Like,
Oh,
You
man.
think? Well, I might go druid. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do it because I don't really care about like getting to the end game and blasting and stuff. Like same with the last PoE league. I just went full YOLO once after some encouragement from Guitaraholic. Had like one of the most fun leagues, but it is really, 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 really expensive to theory craft on the fly. Normally that's the kind of stuff you do in standard. You spend so much currency just tweaking. So just be aware. If you are someone who is like a min-max optimized player, your progress is going to be like severely hampered as people figure it out. But being part of that process is the fun for a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to do an early reroll, but I'm definitely not starting druid.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were briefly talking about at the beginning changes to the passive skill tree, and obviously we don't know the tree yet. What do you guys think about the Oracle node that will introduce 150 new nodes to the tree? Obviously, we don't know any of the nodes yet. I don't even recall if they hovered over any of them. What do you guys think their relative power to other nodes in the passive tree is going to be? Do you think that's going to actually be used?
What have we seen? We saw the 7% chance to cheat death, which is like, I don't want to be rude, but that's like meme tier. That's
terrible.
That's very bad.
No one would ever take that. It's rubbish. So I'm hoping that's not an indication of the kind of thing they're going to add.
That type of thing is only not rubbish if you can get it to 100%, at which point it's broken. Then they can't.
Exactly.
Then they just can't have it in there, right? So it's like there is a body armor that gives you like, how much does it give you? Like 50% chance to avoid death or something?
Yes. Is that in PoE 1 or PoE 2? It's in PoE 2.
It's in PoE 2.
PoE 2. I know what you're talking about.
I don't think there is any such thing as avoiding death in PoE 1, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, those nodes are a really cool idea, I think, but there's a bit of a design problem there where it's like, if there's some very strong notables on that class, everybody has to play the class. Like, suddenly there's an issue there, right? Where it's like, if there's strong notables on the passive tree, then all classes in that region, and maybe even other classes that path over there, can make use of that node. But these are nodes that are exclusive to an ascendancy that then has to pick ascendancy, place ascendancy points into a particular ascendancy notable. And then it's like, well, to make this very specific build, or to make use of these very specific nodes together, I have to use that class exactly because no one else can get it.
I know the cheat death seemed a little memey. I wonder if they'll play with like lucky a little bit with it, like being able to like foresight and you get like lucky rolls, and that would be beyond broken probably if they end up doing that. But
yeah, that's going to be interesting. I'm really interested to see what's going to be available on that tree, to be honest with you, because I feel like it basically cannot be stronger than what's on the normal tree. I mean, they've given themselves such a difficult job of balancing those things, right? Because how can you need to make the node good? It needs to be good enough that you're spending 2 of your passive points on it on the ascendancy, but it can't be good enough that every single player has to play that build on that side of the tree because they can't access these special nodes, right?
And it
It's
has
just
to be
very
better
hard.
than what's there already. It has to be better than what is pre-existing.
Yeah, or like
yeah.
synergize. Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't
Maybe
know.
they might pull it off. Yeah.
Can I raise another issue with this one as well? And that is that if they get this right, if they get it to the point that the 2-point investment on your ascendancy plus the additional options it gives you provides a reasonably good power boost when you're level 95, this is going to be a terrible node at level 50 because your tree is only going to be half as developed. So that's something else that's going to be a real problem with this. And this is the thing that struck me the most about this as a design problem. Either you balance it around, I feel like the correct spot is to balance it around 95, but then it's just absolutely appalling when you're lower level. But the worst case scenario is they balance it around level 50 so that it's an exciting node to take as your second ascendancy notable. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm going to take that. And then you just end up with a snowballing advantage that puts you miles ahead.
Yeah, I just think it's incredibly difficult to balance. But just when you consider like comparing it to another ascendancy, you spend a quarter of your ascendancy points getting it, and then you're spending your passive points getting the benefit of it, right? And every other ascendancy is just getting more power for those, for those ascendancy points spent on the actual ascendancy, and then they're spending their points normally as any other build would, right? So
except the Titan. Titan has something else that lets you invest ascendancy points.
Well, that is, we can discuss that as well if you want. The Titan is just, I don't know what's going on there. I'm surprised that it survived again, right, in this patch. That one is wild to me, but it is there. And I mean, once again, it's going to be one of the question of like, what modifiers are available on the, on that side of the passive tree, especially now that it's getting a revamp, and how abusable is that going to be with hulking form, right?
They're doing a lot of playthings with the passive tree. There's also, speaking of what's strong, I mean, my dad is on the Pathfinder train. He's been watching a little bit of Flubgun, and everybody is ready to play Pathfinder. That is obviously now changing the passive tree to a great degree. Does anyone here want to like take it off and explain how busted this is going to be for a lot of builds? It's getting to exactly, Dream, what you mentioned. Depending on what nodes the Oracle opens up, everybody might just want to play Oracle if the nodes are too busted. Pathfinder with the travel nodes looking kind of spicy.
That's cool. I think the main reason Fubgun wants to play it is because of the lack of, what is it? You don't get the slow from using your attacks now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like entirely reduced? You don't get heavy stun from sprinting. But the multi-choice thing, how can you guys explain how is that applicable to like what is close to the witch and warrior starting area that you might want on Pathfinder? Or do you think people are not even going to take that really?
So did I misunderstand? What does Pathfinder also change like your stat nodes into different things you can take as well?
Yeah, so it grants you extra options on that
Extra
second
options,
node that comes
right.
off of Path Seeker. Yeah, so you
Right.
have 6 choices instead of 3.
Yep.
You have the 3 normal attribute nodes.
attributes,
Then you'll
yep.
also have damage, global defenses, and cost efficiency.
Right.
yeah.
All of those are actually pretty good.
That's what I was talking about.
Misunderstood.
My dad
Yeah.
was,
Okay. Sorry.
he was trying to explain like, oh yeah, you get all your stats from your jewelry, and then you just go damage all across your travel nodes on the tree. So
yeah, that's a good node because basically that's a min-maxing node towards sort of the end of character progression, because what it means is you can fill your affixes with attributes elsewhere on your gear, and then you can also kind of transform all of those points into whatever you need for your build, whether it be, I mean, global defenses is particularly strong of those 3 choices.
Yep.
But it might be the case that you can take 5 cost efficiency nodes, and then suddenly you can remove other points on your tree that was investing into like mana regen and things like this. And like it's just a real min-maxer's dream, that node, to be honest with you. That's what it's good for.
Sure.
I
didn't read these for like I last read these almost a week ago. No, I had 5 days ago. I completely forgot about the Traveler's Wisdom change.
Yeah.
Like
cool.
That is really cool. But then you're gonna have to solve your attributes elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
Is this gonna be an Astromantis league?
Maybe.
Because I mean,
Astromantis is a high
Astromantis.
opportunity cost.
It is high
+3
opportunity cost, yeah. You lose gem levels. It's pretty.
True,
It's a pretty.
true.
Like I think just generally what it is like later on that ascendancy, like early on, you can take other nodes right on the ascendancy because it actually has quite a few good like generic nodes. It has the branch that makes it so that you have less movement speed penalty, and also you're immune to slows. That one is really nice, right?
That
And
one's so
that
good.
branch also got buffed now so that you don't get heavy stun while sprinting. So that one's just generically good on pretty much any build on that class, right? Then you have there's a node on the ascendancy which used to be a 2-pointer, which is now a 1-pointer. I still don't think it's that great, but it's the one that grants you like damage reduction, elemental damage reduction from your evasion. I think it is like half of your evasion. So that is, I mean, that I don't know if that's still worth 2 points spent. Like it's a bit weird, that one, but still, the point that I'm trying to make there is that if you're going evasion on the Pathfinder, which most Pathfinders will be, it's still kind of a generic node that you can fit into a lot of builds. What that means is that later on, you're going to be able to spec out of one of these nodes on your tree, which is not quite as good, go into Traveler's Wisdom, and then you can min-max the hell out of the build, right? Which is that's kind of the end game of that ascendancy.
And also, there's a couple other solutions. Like people mentioned, Astromantis as a way to deal with attribute requirements. Keep in mind the Vertex is being changed extensively, and it already was good at that, but it is becoming explosively good, especially if you want level 20 gems of multiple different colors. You can use a Vertex that has gem attribute requirements are completely suppressed, and then use it alongside non-oppressive attribute requirements on your other equipped gear.
That's another area, like talking about things that are really strong. So we have, right, grenades, we have lightning arrow, like Pathfinder. Lots of uniques were buffed as well. Anything stand out to you guys as enabled? Like you just mentioned Vertex, obviously. I saw some people saying, oh, maybe this is going to interact really well with Giant's Blood. I don't know if people can fit that into their build or not, but any other uniques stand out to you guys as making existing builds strong or maybe bringing up something new to the top?
Giant's Blood was the thing with Vertex. Like this was
okay.
Vertex is in my mind because of the Giant's Blood interaction,
okay.
and then that made me think of it when it came up in discussion. Otherwise, I've got one, but it was from Reddit today. It wasn't my own, so I'll let the others jump in.
Okay.
I mean, there's some pretty crazy unique buffs. The Kachura Crimson is a big one. That item was always pretty fun, but it was never really worth using because you didn't really get that much bonus health, even when you were at like the maximum overflow compared to what you would have had. And now it's just a pretty decent body armor. Like you don't get that much defenses from it. It's not very much armor coming from it, but you get a lot of life. Like it's a lot. If you don't have any life scaling, it's like 72% more life, I think, when you're fully overflowed, that is a lot, right?
Yeah.
And life, generally speaking, is in that kind of position in PoE2 where it does kind of need these bonuses, right, to make it kind of competitive. I still don't think it's going to be like completely competitive. Energy Shield, especially not if the nodes on the tree have been not changed at all. Maybe they're just the same. But just generally speaking, that is a really nice buff overall. Like any build that is like mainly life focused and also can get life leech is good.
Lots of boss uniques got buffed as well. Like I was reading through and recent, I think, what was it, 3 days ago, they released another set of patch notes where it was just another suite of just unique buffs. So that's a good point of feedback that it feels like they're finally really hearing after a few patches of. I think they were like doing minor tweaks to uniques. I think, what was it? Was it 0.3 or 0.2 where they said, oh yeah, we're buffing uniques, and
then they were just not even, they weren't even usable like after the buffs. That's the thing that jumps out to me about these unique buffs is that they, like you say there, it really feels like it's finally got through to them that like these items need to be good. And they actually are good. Like just they are good, right? Like a crafted, you're kind of getting those benefits of what a unique item should be. Like just as I was just speaking about there, the Kachura Crimson, it's like, it doesn't have good defenses. That's kind of the whole idea of the body armor, is that you have just this huge chunk of extra life to absorb damage. That is the kind of trade-off you're making. Like you're not getting the huge chunk of armor from a crafted body armor. You're going for that instead. But it's actually usable. Well, that's the main thing. Like, is actually a thing. So yeah, they're good.
I wonder if they had stats on the back end or something that was showing, wow, nobody's using uniques in their builds. What's going on? Like, because I just speaking from experience, all rares, like all 3 leagues except Tangle Tongue in 0.2 with Lightning Spear, and then Hands of Wisdom in Action 0.1. I remember those are the uniques.
And then Constricting.
Right.
Yeah, like there's always been
Command,
a unique of the league. Yeah, it's like
Astraventus.
Hand of Wisdom in Action, the
Yep.
Deepest Tower. I wonder what it's going to be this league.
Yeah.
But I hope they keep doing it. Hyries, I know hardly anyone uses Hyries Aya, but that was really good last league, especially with deflection. And now it has gained 15 to 25% of damage as extra cold.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
Yeah, and 25% increased freeze duration. That is a huge evasion rating buff for that, especially with deflection. So I think that's probably one that's a little bit overlooked. Last league it was like 1C or something. So maybe if you're playing an evasion build, check out that.
Yeah, that will not be 1C this league. Whispering Ice is something that is getting a really monstrous buff because Whispering Ice is now going to be functional as a generic cold spellcaster staff, as well as having its additional unique effect. I do believe Whispering Ice is going to be mythic rarity though, because it seems like they put out the first release of patch notes, I think, was all the ones that were mythic rares. And then the second patch note changes were things that were lower rarity. I think it felt like that from what they were doing. The other thing that's really cool though as well, the Anvil is getting buffed. The Anvil is terrible outside hardcore, but its interaction with Sappho's Frame is extremely strong. If you're willing to sacrifice a lot of offense for defense, the Anvil will now have 10% perfectly divined, 12% perfectly Krangle divined, to your maximum block, which Sappho's Frame will then transform into quad maximum resist. So you're going to be 87, 87, 87, 87 with a perfect Krangle Divine on it. And I think you can get max block on as a Vaal implicit on shields, can't you?
Yeah, 3%.
Yeah, so there's your 90. So you got 90% quad resist. Now, this is coming at a real opportunity cost. This is just your maximums, but this is the equivalent of like a Path of Exile 1 Melding of the Flesh setup. Except it applies to Chaos as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Svalin has had that crazy buff where it now rolls, you can take 0%. Well, 0 to 20% of damage from blocked hits. Like that is as close to feeling immortal that when you've got that like max block setup, especially we don't have life gain on block in this game, do we? But that's
I think there's like a tiny bit on the tree, like
tiny bit on the tree.
I think it was like 10 or something like that. It's very low amount, but yeah.
Feels.
And you can get 1% if you've got rage, like 0% if you don't have rage, 1% if you do.
Yeah. Oh,
because
block.
No. I'm talking about this is on your Svalin's explicit modifier that you're talking about. So if you do not have rage built into your character, 0 is a perfect roll. But if you do have rage built in, 1% becomes a perfect roll because then you're taking occasional damage, which is then ensuring that your rage stays live, especially with the big buffs to rage decay that came in 5 or 6 hours ago.
True.
Oh shit! There's more patch.
And they're not listed they're not grouped together. The 2 changes today are not grouped together in the patch notes. The first one is Rage Decay, so search for the words rage per second to find it with Control F in your patch notes. The second one is Essence of Horror Nerf. 100% to 60%.
That should help with Druid, maybe, or maybe you can start with Druid.
Oh, thank goodness.
Let's go.
I'm so glad that they nerfed Essence of Horror. That was just like, dude, everyone's boots looked like that. And gloves. But yeah, the rage thing is nice.
Yeah, it'll really help with like bear, like keeping up. Like do you guys think we'll be able to perma rampage easily in bear form? Or do you think that's gonna be?
I don't know about easily, but probably.
Probably perma.
It feels like there's a lot of things that whenever you say like, can you, and then insert easily, the answer is often feels like no.
No, but yeah.
No, but yeah.
I will shout out one other interesting unique item.
Oh, okay.
Perfidy, the body armor. This one just got an absolute giant buff this patch, and it's actually a really interesting buff. So that item previously rolled 10 to 40% chance on two separate rolls to avoid physical hit damage or chaos hit damage. And this patch is going to have 10 to 30% chance to avoid every single damage type on separate rolls, right? So 5 different rolls. And then it also got a giant armor and evasion buff. Previously, it was like a 400 armor body armor or something like that. With this at the top end, it's going to be like 1,000 armor and 1,000 evasion. So it's decent. Like, it's not terrible. And it still has like the intimidate thing as far as like I'm aware. So this is kind of an interesting body armor to just like throw on, and you just have like, no matter what you're going against, you always have like this kind of mitigation layer, right? Of like just chance to avoid damage, and avoided damage counts as prevented damage. So it's pretty interesting item. It does mean that it's very hard to get a good divine on it because it's 5 separate rolls. So it's like the chances of you getting like good, that's an interesting one.
They really didn't just increase numbers on a lot of these too. They just added brand new mods, or they kind of reformatted how the mods work. I really like that, as opposed to just doing the number tweaks. Like, they went and they're like, all right, we need to up our game one more time with this unique, and that's going to push it over the edge. I guess we'll see how it plays out in just a few days. It'll be interesting to see.
I guess on the flip side is they kind of did some of the opposite of that as well with stuff like Hateforge.
Yeah.
Hateforge was like, that's the kind of nerf I don't like, because there's this problem whenever they introduce new mechanics and things. It's like posing a problem. People go out and they figure out solutions, and then there's almost like this preemptive. Oh no, that you're not supposed to do that. So it's like pre-nerfed before it comes out. So it sometimes starts feeling like they pose a problem and there's like one correct solution that they want you to arrive at, and if you divert from that, then they kind of like pull it back in by either nerfing it or removing it. So, and they did that like with Indigon. Like, no one was using Indigon, and then people started theory crafting with it, and then like the next day it's nerfed. I don't know if that's a coincidence or if they've got someone like watching.
I'm sure there are people
like
watching.
and the Last Lament, that's another one. It's like, this
that
is some
one,
like super cool build.
Okay,
People
that
figured
one,
it out.
The Lich,
that one actually, that kind of annoyed me. The Last Lament.
It annoyed everyone.
Let me just say, like, the reason why it's so annoying is because like I haven't played that build, didn't have any intention of playing it. The problem is the obvious thing going on here is that, like, when the best crafted weapons you can have giant gem level modifier. Okay, that one didn't have a gem level modifier, and it was only usable in one very specific build, and they killed that one interaction.
Crazy.
So now nobody is going to use that item. Like,
that's not correct though. It's being used by 1% of the ladder on non-liches. So the liches are another 2% of the ladder, but 1% of people are using it without the bypass of the life. So it is still a case that it's going to continue to be used. It's just going to go from a really popular thing to something that just sees some use. I think the key thing they're trying to do here is make it so that they don't have to pre-nerf Spell Totem in order to accommodate how good it's going to be with Hateforge. And if you allow Hateforge, you have to hold down Spell Totem's power to account for the fact that every single person that uses Spell Totem that is in any way a min-maxer has already equipped Hateforge to fund it. Now they're going, okay, well, we're going to gut Hateforge and probably make it so that Hateforge and Spell Totem can still work together if you want the interaction, but it's not going to be mandatory to use the two together. And essentially, they can then put more power back into Spell Totem. So that's what I hope they're doing here. I hope they get that balance right so that Spell Totem is usable with or without Hateforge. Because if they didn't gut Hateforge, they did not have that option. They just had to make it so it was either usable with Hateforge and awful without, or it was usable without Hateforge and utterly league-definingly broken with. So
That's fair enough.
So
that's why I think they've made the right choice there, even though it is kind of sad.
Since we're talking about it, since you mentioned it with the Hateforge thing, what do you guys think about Spell Totem? Does it look like it's going to be strong? Are you guys in agreement with like the builder spender playstyle that it's encouraging, and you think that's going to feel bad? Do you guys have any thoughts about that? For both, I guess, Spell Totem and the Ancestor Totem.
I think you have to jump through a lot of hoops to make it work as like a you only thing, right? Like that's kind of the design they're going for with that. Like Jonathan said, is it's like you tag it onto a build that can generate charges, and it's like this big damage boost when you do drop it. Which, I mean, that makes sense, right? As a design, that makes sense. I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. Like, I think people need to kind of get out of the mindset of how it was in PoE 1 because it's this different game, ultimately, right? So that's kind of what they're going for with it. I think it is better that they introduce it like this, and then if it's bad, right, and if it's not particularly good, they can then buff it and change things later on with it, rather than, I mean, we could just have another situation where they introduce it and then 90% of players are only using that because it's just then it's just insanely OP, right? That could have happened. So I don't really mind it too much. I don't think the design, like the idea of it, isn't inherently bad. I'm not sure if the numbers are right. I don't know whether it needs to be 3 charges. It could be 2 maybe, or maybe it could even be 1. I don't know, but it's that's basically my thoughts on it right now.
All right.
Something to consider for a week 2 reroll because we don't know anything about the stats now.
True. Do we not have? We also don't have any gem info on druid skills, right? We don't have.
Yeah, we only know like the ones that they show off right at the start, which could be changed now, and they're just one level, like the level where they're introduced, right? We just don't know about them at all, really.
Okay.
Are we gonna? Not to interrupt. Do you think we're gonna get that before launch, or do you think the intention is for us to go in blind?
To be honest with you, I would have said yes to all of the things, like passive tree, the ascendant, especially the ascendancies, especially, and the skills.
Yeah,
passive tree maybe, right? Now I'm really not sure. Like now we're days away. They said they were going to make a video as well. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to have.
Yep. And like it does not feel like we are it's not even 60 hours. It's like 55 and a quarter hours until league start. And the hype is the lowest I think I've seen it, because normally 55 and a half hours out from league start, you'd be theory crafting stuff. Right now it's like, okay.
There's like nothing to theory.
Chat with you guys, but the podcast will be over.
There isn't anything because we can't. I mean, we can just like pull numbers out of the sky, I guess, and pretend they're true.
Yeah.
But, just...
but also, right now, theory crafting is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like theory crafting is scary because it has happened so many times over the last few leagues where people do theory crafting sessions. They produce ideas, concepts, say, "I think I'm going to do this," and then they nerf it. Like before it comes out.
I mean, I made a video yesterday about the flame breath, right? Because Jonathan said that it's like stacking ignites, which is really cool, by the way. Really cool concept. But that video might be completely inaccurate because they've probably already changed the gem, right? Like, it doesn't really like. I mean, what are we meant to do? You know, what are we supposed to do? I don't know.
And I think one of the real problems here is it encourages clickbait because, like, you can put out a clickbait post that says, "Hey, this is the #1 authoritative best way to level Lightning Spear in 040. And that's going to get viewed. But people who honestly say you cannot say yet what the best is going to be don't really get viewed. And as a result, they end up, or you say, honestly, so far we can't say very much about how to build all the details. Everyone that clicked on looking for a POB clicks off at that point, and then YouTube sends out an algorithm message, "Hey, this video is marked as potential clickbait, and it's disappointing viewers, so stop recommending it so much." I have this thing where the algorithms end up pushing the clickbait rubbish to the top, whereas if we were in a position where theory crafting was possible, then the actual thought out things that are done by people who have some integrity, they would float to the top instead.
Yeah,
probably alongside a couple of rubbish ones.
So, man, Sirgog, you're really terrifying me because I'm like viewing this as in like a Ouroboros, you know, because we're gonna have people. I've already seen it. I've already seen videos saying this is the best way to do this, and a lot of people are, as you said, clicking on it. They're thinking it's real, and then we could get in on launch day, and all those people think, yeah, I'm doing the best thing. I'm following the best guide, and they will get their butts handed to them. And they're going to be so mad. They're going to be like, what is going on? Why am I not super powerful? Why am I not zooming through the campaign? Oh, like it could be a repeat Dawn of the Hunt. You're freaking me out, Sirgog.
And they're going to blame the wrong thing for it. Right. They're not going to blame GGG's release schedule. They're going to blame GGG's balance team.
Yep.
When the balance, it might actually be that there's a fine way to build these skills. We just don't know it because no one knows anything at the moment.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, Dawn of the Hunt is actually on the cards if the lead mechanic is not good. Like that's this whole patch for me revolves around if the lead mechanic is good or not. Because for Dawn of the Hunt, it was the case that the lead mechanic was basically non-existent.
Yeah.
And so the patch overall just wasn't that great once people got past the Huntress. They were like, okay, well the patch is the same, like, or the game felt worse at the start, and then they kind of made changes. And now it's like the end game hasn't really received very many changes. There are some changes that people haven't experienced in the end game because they may have fallen off the last patch earlier. So a lot of that stuff is going to be, something that people can kind of try and test out, and perhaps they'll enjoy the end game much more. Especially the whole juicing thing, like those are some really big changes actually. Like the gameplay loop for end game mapping is now. It's just that they took a lot of the busy work out, which is really good. Like those changes are very, very good. I'm looking forward to, just to be able to map without all of that rubbish, right? So those are some really big changes. But yeah, as it is right now, I think that the lead mechanic has to be kind of big because
right.
Yeah.
And pretty quickly too, right? I know the first 5 areas they talked about, you're building up the temple, so you won't get to the actual first rune until, what is it, like the Red Vaal or something like that. So it's going to be like the in-map mechanic to start and everything. And just to close out the last topic, guys, I know we mentioned at the top, like, oh, a lot of people, they love this time, they're upset, they're kind of scared that the balance is going to be off, and they like theory crafting. I do think that, like myself, Sirgog, you said there's no hype. I'm pretty hyped, but like you said, I'm such a different type of player. Like I go in, I build it as it comes. I don't use build guides. I don't know how big that audience is for PoE too. And I think there's obviously going to be like the free-to-play weekend. It's going to introduce the game to a lot more players. I think the Game Awards, what the heck's happening there? Is it just going to be a trailer of the Druid? And they're spending like 500K on an ad spot? Maybe they are. But I think there's a pretty sizable player base in PoE 2 that might not be really vocal on all the community forums and posts, that they're just excited. They're just excited to log in and play. And that is where I am at too. And I can also say my entire friend group is the same way, except for my brother. He's in your guys' boat. He's like, where the heck are the Ascendancy nodes? This is utter crap. I want to play on my build. This is crazy. So
yeah, I guess the metrics I go by are just the visible excitement, like engagement with the subreddit, engagement with my own videos, that sort of stuff is just, it seems like it's the lowest that hype has been for a PoE 2 release. I hope I'm wrong.
Are they going to try to pack all this release in the last 2 days? Like I feel like you're right. GGG also usually releases like new good info every single day leading up to the patch. And it's just been loot filter posts, right? Loot filter, Game Awards, like Twitch drops, that's it. Like
patch note updates, yeah.
Patch note updates, like they could be like the end game showcase videos. There could be the Ascendancy, like here you get the Shaman today, you get the Oracle tomorrow. That's why I think what I said at the beginning is true. I feel like they're scrambling. I feel like they're like almost rushing it up, like they're making last minute changes. Could be really good, it could be really bad, right? It could be a mixed bag. So
but I mean, the thing is, if they were just fine with doing the mid-league balance, that wouldn't be an issue. Again, it comes down to that. Like, it wouldn't matter, because after a week they could say, hey, we're doing this and this and this. They might do that for like a couple of skills, but if there was like a commitment to that kind of like continued balance, then I wouldn't mind. But the problem is now you could get in, Druid could suck, and then it's just gonna suck for the next like 3 months.
Don't doom,
or could be oppressively good.
Or or be oppressively good, or just like kind of middle of the pack. Excuse the pun, but we'll see. But
middle of the pack would be ideal.
The middle of the pack would be ideal, and I think this is probably like an early access thing. I would imagine, hopefully, by the time the game is fully launched, all the classes in the game, the whole tree is there, that we're gonna have fewer instances of this where we kind of feel like we're in the dark pre-launch. And for PoE, I know there's a lot of players who are like, well, why do these streamers all want like all the information? Like it's exciting to go in and like figure stuff out while you're playing. Like for more experienced players, the theory crafting process, coming up with something beforehand, planning, that is part of the fun for them. Doing that ahead of time.
The meme is real for a lot of you. Like Path of Building is the real game, right? Like a lot of people say that, but it is true. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people love going in Path of Building and playing with all the numbers and then seeing it realized in game. That's fine.
Exactly. And if you like going in blind, you can go in blind. Just don't go on Reddit
That is
or anything. Just go in
right.
blind.
That's my take. You know, like people who are saying, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
you shouldn't get the passive tree. You shouldn't get all the." Who cares if you don't want to use it? Just don't use it. It's fine. You will be fine.
Yeah.
Seriously, it won't ruin the game experience for you. You know, you're probably going to be behind in Trade League anyway if you're doing it blind. Like it does not matter, guys. It's not going to be
Exactly.
a difference. So.
Yeah.
Okay, and then moving on over, Dream, you were starting to open up the discussion about endgame changes we did get. Obviously, it was supposed to be an endgame revamp in 0.4. You know, GGG said that a few times. It was pushed to 0.5. Fingers crossed for now. The tree is going to change. It sounds like progression's going to change. Leagues are going to get updated. This patch, we got a few endgame changes. We got, I'd say, 3 big ones. One, changes to tablets. Obviously, we can now juice them up to 4 mods, rare, and it's locked behind Arbiter of Ash completion. What do you guys think about the gate being Arbiter to actually being able to upgrade your tablets to a significant degree? Is it
I got it. I don't like it, personally. The reason why I don't like it is because finding Arbiter is annoying.
Yes.
That is basically it, right? In PoE 1, your watchstones, like getting your watchstones, especially the first 2, pretty trivial because it's basically just like normal questing, right? You just get this.
Deterministic. Yeah.
It's deterministic, yeah. In PoE 2, finding the Arbiter, and I can say this from experience from the last league where I literally didn't find any citadels on level 94 character, and then I didn't see any after that on the second character either. Like, that is just not...
It's crazy. Same thing happens to me.
Like, that's absurd.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
If I get the... Let's just say I'm playing SSF, right? I don't know if I'm going to play SSF this league, but let's just say I am. Like, I'm just not... Okay, I guess I'm just not getting rare tablets then. Cool.
It sucks.
Or you just have to pay. You have to pay for access to something that other people not only got
SSF,
for free. Oh, in SSF. Oh yeah. Then you're just like screwed.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I don't know if I am going to play SSF. I'm probably going to play trade again. But what I'm saying is, like, yeah, if I like that, I don't know why they didn't make that system better in this patch, because I feel like they can. I feel like they can make it so that you just deterministically get the first one. The ones after that don't really matter, right? Like they can keep the same system if they really want to, like the RNG system. But the first one, especially if it's locking behind a really important thing, such as getting an extra 2 modifiers on your tablet, which is that is huge. Let's not it's massive.
I think something as simple as like when you first find the burning monolith, if it just like pinged, you know, imagine like Age of Mythology or Age of Empires, if it just pinged the near citadel, it's like, oh, you found the burning citadel, you go in there, the quest tells you to go in there, and then when you go in, it opens your atlas, and Dorian is like, oh, I have this sensor in this direction, and it like scrolls your screen, and it puts down the beam where the first citadel is. Literally, I would not have any complaints until they, you know, I know they're going to revamp it, but I feel like that just make it so much better, because that's some people's like just goal. Kill Arbiter of Ash with my character. That's like my goal. Kill Arbiter of Ash with my character. That's like, oh, end game done. I don't need to grind it.
Now you're done.
Now I'm done. And I wasn't level 94. I was like level 92 before I found my first one. But then I played to level 95. No other citadels. 0.
Yeah, exactly.
They could rather put it behind once you have like 25 points on your primary atlas tree, because that is a deterministic progression path where it's do this, and then you will get the points. So once you get 30 points, then Doriani's like, oh, I have discovered a way to make the thing stronger. And then he goes, and then now you can do it. Like, and then everyone gets it. I don't know why they decided to lock it behind Arbiter. It's a little bit weird.
Yeah, do keep in mind that in 031 they did buff the chance for any particular area that's found on the atlas, which are big areas, the tiles that Jonathan mentioned in the Try interview the other day. They changed that from 30% to 50% to contain a cluster of 3 citadels in it. I think the most oppressive situation here is not going to be the people who get extremely unlucky and don't find a single citadel. I think the really oppressive thing is going to be when you find a citadel. You go in there, you defeat Gianor, you defeat Jamanra, and then you make some bad mistake and die on Doriani. And then you're like, oh no. That is going to be so crushing because you'll feel like you've just lost it because of your own, like, your own really bad mistake. It's just, I think a number of people are going to bounce on the league at that point.
Dude, I was
the
on
other-
such a high coming into this podcast. Sirgog, you, oh my God, I can see this
Yeah.
happening.
I'm always thinking of just the things like that can go wrong. And the
Oh my
other thing that's going
God.
to be really, really tilting is going to be, especially if it's the easiest of the three, especially if it's Doriani. In Trade League, that's fine because, you can just buy the one that you stuffed up. But like in SSF, it's going to be really bad. And the other thing that's related is if you don't have the character power to down the Arbiter, or if you just aren't feeling confident, you can sort of get around that. Like I was more worried about that earlier, but then people pointed out correctly that actually you have unlimited attempts now.
Infinite attempts, yeah.
It's only your portals, you have to kill it in that opening though, right? You got unlimited attempts, but if you log off for the session or whatever, you can't go back into the Burning Monolith because you use the keys to open it, right? Like
Yeah.
if you miss like you're not representing your power correctly in your mind, you're like, I can kill Arbiter, and you go in and you can't kill him, then you're screwed. Unless you have a friend carry. Can it a
They
friend
ain't got
come
a
in after?
buddy.
A friend can come in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so,
And
yeah.
I feel like you
friend.
can, if you can beat Jamanra with one portal, you can beat Arbiter with 6.
True.
Or not even 6,
True.
but like you've got more than 6. But
Yeah.
you can use 27 if you want. It will be really painful if you have an IRL emergency in there as well. But
Yeah, because the thing you need to realize is like you're effectively you're not unlocking like one map device slot, which is let's say like 20% more scarabs. You are doubling the amount of juice you can apply to your maps with tablets, at least in terms of explicit mods on those. So not having that isn't like missing a little bit, it's missing a lot.
It's
A
massive.
lot,
Yeah, I mean
lot.
that's one of the main replacements they had for both instilling and the desecrated mods on maps. Like that was they removed both of those things, which is a lot of busy work gone. That, like I said, that's really good. But like this was part of the replacement there for that juicing. So I do find that kind of interesting. I mean, we haven't discussed that much. Like there wasn't a restriction before. I guess the restriction was actually having the materials to put those on your maps. But now there is a restriction, right? In defeating the Arbiter. Like you actually can't access the juice until you've defeated Arbiter, whereas before you could just you could just do it whatever.
Which I think is cool in concept. They're putting like a goal behind Arbiter because what there was no real purpose to kill him. You got what, the few extra points on your
2 boss tree points.
The 2 plus the boss. Is it boss tree points, right? Yeah, boss tree points and then like the uniques. But they're like, it sounds like they're trying to like give something like a cool reward. I like that idea in concept, but I just think the way getting him kind of just takes the whole idea down, unfortunately. Now,
I think it's too much.
It's too much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you look in PoE 1, the most similar. Actually, in PoE 1, the most similar thing is the 5th and 6th map device slots, and the 5th device slot is behind a completely guaranteed deterministic encounter. It's a reasonably hard encounter if you're brand new, but it's very much deterministic. And then the 6th one, you can make do without it until you're starting to use Mythic Scarabs. At that point, you definitely want it, but you can make do without it a bit longer. This is too big. This is like getting your 3rd, 4th, and 5th Scarab slots all at once, and 20 Atlas bonus points, and something else.
Ooh, it's going to be interesting. There was another. Oh, go for it, Lolcohol.
No. I was just gonna say this is like a temporary band-aid before hopefully 0.5. Huge update. Yeah.
They were really working. They were talking big about it, and I think Mark usually follows through when he says something's going to happen. And Mark really seemed like, oh, it's coming, it's juicy, it's meat. We're not going to delay it again. We're making it extra big for you guys. So April will be interesting. Okay. Yeah, there was another change that specifically affected Endgame that I'd love to hear your guys' take on. I tried to get Jonathan's take on it a little bit. I think he was still a little bit cagey on it. in my opinion, and that's the density changes to endgame maps. So when I saw that, I was super excited about it. I was like, oh, less clutter. It'll, each individual combat will be a little bit more meaningful, maybe. More skills will be viable because you don't need to screen clear. Because that was the thing. Like, you needed something that would blow up the entire screen very quickly, or you were going to die on a lot of builds. What do you guys think about the density change? Do you think it's not going to have as big as an impact as some people think it's going to believe, like myself? Do you think it's going to be a big impact? Do you, like a middle ground? I don't know. Let's start. Sirgog, what do you think about it?
So I've been the pessimist on everything today. I'm cautiously optimistic about this one. I think this one is something that there will definitely be a section of the player base that loathes this change, and I am outside of that section. And so the reason I say that is that I think that this is something that means that doing damage is like there's just more levers that matter on a character. At the moment, like there's damage projection, there's rarity, there's movement speed, and up to a certain point, there's tankiness. Now, the tankiness requirements are substantially lower because there are going to be a 28.57% less enemies hitting you, at least for the normal monsters. So tankiness against trash monster burst damage requirements are lower than they were before. That is going to be significant for opening up build diversity. The other thing is that dealing 1 million damage to each of 10 monsters and dealing 1.4 million damage to each of 7 monsters, often there'll be skills that can do one or the other. And I feel like both of them will feel viable in this situation. I hope I'm right on that. I'm very open to being proven wrong. So yeah, cautious optimism.
One of my skills that I really wanted to make work in 0.2, I feel like might be a little bit more viable now. It's like Glacial Fang or Fangs of Winter, Fangs of Frost, something like that. It's one of the spear skills. It's so sick. Parry got buffed, so now I'm like, oh, maybe this will be viable because it feels so chunky and meaty, and I love the animation on it. But it was so bad in 0.2. Oh, it was just terrible, guys. So I'm definitely gonna try that out. Also, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm muting me when I cough on stream, but I was hearing my cough. It's through Discord. Sorry for if you guys hear me coughing.
Oh,
Yeah, that's oops. I should just find my mute button on my
don't
microphone.
worry.
Anyway,
Hope you feel
Dream,
better
Lolcohol.
soon.
I know. Dream, Lolcohol, what are your takes on the density changes? Are you optimistic like Sirgog and I?
Yeah. I spoke about. I
Go on, you
think
go,
this is
go.
great. Yeah, because I was talking to Dead Rabbit and Miso and Cal
Yeah.
about this, and I was talking about like how I know Diablo 2. Okay, going back in there, but Diablo 2 has the perfect balance of like visual clarity, combat, and like monster design and monster identity and all of that. And when you're out in the world and you see a pack of like rare monsters, you go up to that pack of monsters and you engage that pack of monsters, then you fight it, and then it's often exciting because they drop like a pack. Right? They tend to drop good stuff. But we've moved on from that to the point that now people want the like full screen shatters and stuff. So I think they're trying to get back to that sort of feeling of like, oh, there's a rare pack, I'm going to engage that, then move on to the next thing. And I would like that. I don't know in reality if this is actually going to feel all that different, because they did say that it is 40% fewer monsters in a pack of rares, but still the same number of rare packs in a map, which could mean like a massive loot buff overall if you have this, because I mean the rares are the things dropping the stuff mostly, right? And the other thing with like D2 is it did allow for like more single target-y skills, where it's not all about AoE. But I don't think PoE 2 is ever going to get to that. I think the other thing they need to maybe consider is if they do want to have that more like individual engagements across a map, where it's like you're fighting here and then there and then there and there, instead of just like exploding the whole screen, is make the map smaller. Bring the map smaller so that you're not like having to traverse great distances between packs. But I think it's cool. And like you said in your interview with Jonathan, it's a surprisingly, hopefully good change, especially after Abyss, where it was like, oh, we just PoE 1 again.
Yeah, because I played Abyss and Keepers back to back after skipping out on Mercenaries League. And while the games are definitely different, it felt so similar when I was, sitting in the breaches and everything. It felt like I was in an Abyss with my monk. It was like the same style of gameplay. So that identity of the two games, I feel like it would just be a negative if they just kept merging over time instead of becoming more unique. And I had bought into the fact that they were just going to merge after 0.3. I was like, there's no way, like after seeing this, it's over. But they've taken a step in the back, even though it still seems like, I don't know, from hearing Jonathan talk, I feel like he doesn't want to say that. I feel like meaningful combat has like been memed on so hard, they will never say it again. Like it's crazy. Do you guys disagree? I feel like because it's like such a touchy issue. Dreamcore,
Yeah,
you're laughing.
So I will say, just on that topic, the Lolcohol just touched on it there. That's like the one thing I'm most concerned about with this change is the map size compared to the amount of monsters in it, right?
Okay.
That kind of, because you do kind of have that in the tier 1 maps. When you first get into mapping, you are kind of having these big gaps between monster packs, and that is something I'm a bit concerned about overall. But I would say that in general, like, this is a change that, let's just wait and see, right? Like we can't really know what this is going to mean for the game, and I think it's going to be something that people are just going to have to test. I hope that it's a step in the right direction, because ultimately, like, the whole concept of PoE 2 was to be quite a bit different from PoE 1. Otherwise, why would it even exist? So,
Yeah.
and I do kind of want that, right? So, yeah, that's. I hope that it's a good change. Overall, I think that it should be.
You're right too. You know, I know I'm a hype lord, but it's wait and see. Like if we get to any end and it like feels bad, if there are literally like you're sprinting for 10 seconds, 5 seconds, even like between, that's gonna feel so bad, right? I can't imagine that would be the case, especially after all the feedback they've had on that. But you know, could be unfortunately surprised.
Can I just pull out my maths nerd hat here for a second, clarify something? People have been saying 40% less monsters a lot. It's actually not 40% less. It's removing a 40% more multiplier. So you're going basically from 100 to 140 is the current status. So 100 in tier 1 maps, 140 in tier 15s. That multiplier is going away, but that's actually a 28.57% reduction. And once you factor in that this is in a fixed area, you're looking like it's something like 13% further between packs. So it's not actually 40% less density in the sense. It's more the gap between packs is increasing by a factor of the square root of 5 on 7. So yeah,
I love the way you think about stuff.
Holy crap.
as I say, maths nerd, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, thank you for dishing that.
I mean, I feel like they should have. The way they done it in the reveal, they should have probably done it exactly as Gog just said there, right? It would have actually, I think generally the player base would have been more like warm receiving of that change, because it did kind of make it sound like they were just removing a huge amount of monsters from maps, right? Which is actually not. You can kind of take a look at like what's going on in like early maps in like current PoE 2, and you can see what kind of density you're going to have in those endgame maps. Like, because all they're doing is removing a change that they just added. Was it in 0.3 or was it in 0.2 where they like added that scaling? I think it was in 0.3.
Really?
Yeah, they added like scaling basically, so that there's like, which is something from PoE 1, right?
No, they actually reduced the density. I think it was in 031. They reduced the density in tier 1 maps.
That's
and
right,
maintained constant at 15.
That's right. Yeah. So
yeah, like they tested the change. They did mid-league balance, and they were like, "Hey, we're gonna test this change, see if it works out." And they said, you know, it has worked out. So,
and that was because people were getting overwhelmed on the defense requirements that were present when you were getting that swarmed by that many monsters. That was the feedback, the 030 feedback they acted on in 031 when they made that change. And then they decided, actually, we prefer the way it plays in low tier maps, so let's roll it out generally, but make sure there's no loss of loot.
So we touched briefly on rares earlier in the context of them having most of the loot in maps, and sounds like it's not really changing the number of rares. Neversink and I had an interesting discussion about rares the other day and making them feel more meaningful and more than just their rare monster modifiers. Do you guys think it's feasible that GGG will pursue this in the future? I obviously asked Jonathan, and he said, "Oh, it's a lot of work, you know." the rare monster modifiers is an easy way to scale out and make each rare feel different, even if it isn't actually like that different, in my opinion. Do you think there will ever be a day and age where it's like, okay, you're not just blowing up the rare once you get to a good amount of character power? It's actually like, okay, I have to pay attention to this monster again for like 5 seconds. And it's like, oh, this is the vulture demon. It has this special move. I gotta be careful with it. Or is that not even a game you guys want? Because I feel like that'd be such a cool
That's just
game.
really hard to do.
It
that is incredibly difficult for them to actually get the balance correct on that. Because I think in a way they tried to do this in PoE1 in Arch Nemesis, and it was not very well received. These kind of like more interesting monster modifiers, which look, there are some interesting monster modifiers. The problem that you're going to have is the weaker builds will have this interaction where they are like fighting an uber boss every rare monster, right? But the stronger builds will just delete the monsters and never understand what mechanics are even happening, right? So that is why it's so difficult to get that balance correct to a point where you would like have that interaction happening on like a normal or like an average basis, right? When a player bumps into a rare monster, they actually have these kind of quote unquote meaningful encounter mechanics or whatever, where it's like, I don't know, the monster has an AoE that like grows around it and explodes, so then you have to like move out of it and move back in. Like these kind of things are just, it's very dependent on, first of all, what kind of build you're playing, because maybe you never even see the mechanics, as I just mentioned there.
Right. Well, it's the same with
Can I
bosses.
just clarify? I think this was a different question though, really, that was coming up with a try and never sink discussion. Is where should rare monster offensive uniqueness come from? Should it come from the monster type, or should it come from the monster modifiers that are present? Because in currently the case, I feel like there are some monsters where the combination of monster type, and most notably monster AI, in conjunction with the monster's modifiers, can make a big difference. If you've got a drains mana, deals lightning damage over time monster, that fight is very different if that monster has melee AI and low movement speed, such as a zombie. That is a very different fight to a monster that has ranged AI, tries to maintain a 3-meter distance from you, and has the movement speed to actually outspeed you. That's a very different fight. But really the thing that's changing there is just the way the monster's AI interacts with the lightning mana siphoner ring. But what about a situation where the drowned monsters, for instance, they have a very unique ability that you have to fear all the time. Lots of people hate them. I find them really annoying as well. But they're an example where a monster is extremely unique. If you had a genuinely tanky one of them, you respect the fact that it's a drowned more than you respect the fact that it has added fire damage. And the real question, I think, is where should rare monster power primarily come from?
Yeah, that is exactly what I was trying to hone in on.
So you're talking more about like
the actual monsters,
basically like the actual monster, and then how that interacts with like the
exactly,
the
because
I mean,
instead of all that, like, because if they continue to have the balance they have in Endgame, I'd argue that it doesn't matter that there's 500 different monsters in PvP2. They could all just be reskinned bandits, like beyond
exactly.
PvP1. And I that was like one of the mainstays of PvP2. They're like, we're gonna go all in on monster design. We're gonna have unique types per area, per act, and then my fantasy was in the end game. Then all these stuff mashes together, and the results will be spectacular. We'll get the drowned hags from Act 3 alongside the titans in Act 2 that like stomp and fall on you. So you're getting inside a drowned orb, and then the titan is gonna fall on your face, and it's good. And I know that might be frustrating and wild to hear for some people who do want the blow up fantasy, but I loved that idea. To have like 4 different monster types that wouldn't mash together, and having to react and deal with them in an interesting way. And I got that throughout the campaign, right? Especially in 0.1. And ever since 0.1, like the moment you got to maps, I remember my first map so vividly. It was a lovely it's the Chimera boss now, the one that everybody likes but used to hate.
Zyclusian, yeah.
Yeah.
It Zyclusian?
It's the square one with the buttons you have to press. That one. That was my first map. And I was like, oh man, this is not what I imagined, because everything's just rushing you. It's just like you just gotta kill stuff as fast as possible. That was my
They
fantasy.
need to.
I will say
If-
that. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if they do want to get back to that feeling, and again, Diablo 2 did this flawlessly. I know I keep going back to it, but D2 has like monster identity. Every monster has like an exceptionally well defined identity that is then enhanced by the monster modifiers, which are comparatively much simpler than what we have in PoE.
Yes.
So
Yes.
PoE, it's all just like this monster is faster, it hits harder, it's tankier, it shoots more projectiles. But then the underlying monster type is always preserved. Whereas, and we have quite a few monsters like that in PoE too, like vultures, those titans, drowned hags, the crabs. Those are all excellently designed things because, like, think of when you run Sandspit, you're like, oh, the freaking crabs, man, and like you're not scared about their mods. So you're like, these things are shooting these projectiles that you need to deal with that. But the moment you start adding these monster modifiers that they just like how do I explain it, like overshadows the monster's identity, then you're never going to get that feeling. So I think if they do want to go that route, you need to firstly look at certain monster types that don't have a strong identity, and then also simplify the rare monster mod pool, and then possibly also do stuff like reducing map size and pack size, which I mean then you're moving into like we're remaking D2. Or maybe they could do something like what they discussed, which was like a rare monster of this type has these like special extra abilities.
Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing comes in is when you have like let's say a pool of like 20 rare modifiers, but they're all very sort of like generic additional projectiles hasted. Think of like additional projectiles and hasted and compare that on a different monster type with a strong identity, like a drowned hag, hasted with additional projectiles. Now it's shooting 3 balls. Now that monster identity is preserved and it is scary in an interesting way. Or a hasted titan or something like that. I don't know. You know what I mean? You've got like simplistic mod pool, but a very strong monster identity. I think that's where it's interesting. But none of that matters if you're blowing up the entire screen.
Exactly.
So,
that's
Can I suggest another nuance on this? Is that they could have much more variance in the power level of rare monster modifiers, so that 98% of the monsters you encounter have mundane modifiers like plus 15% damage added as fire that change the monster slightly, but they're not the real mechanics. Then you have Brine King Touched. And when Brine King Touch comes up, and I'm taking one out of PoE 1 here, that utterly transforms the fight. Or Arakali Touch, especially if you don't have Chaos Res. All of a sudden, this individual rare monster, you have to notice it's much more dangerous. The other thing is that you could have much more variance in the hit points that rare monsters have. So you could encounter a drowned hag that has, let's just say that your character does 100,000 DPS at this point. So you've got one drowned hag that has 120,000 hit points. So as soon as you really get to focus it down, it's dead really fast. Then there's another one that has comparably dangerous modifiers. We're not giving it any of the equivalents of PoE 1's, Pantheon Touch ones, but this one has 1.6 million hit points. Now you've got a choice. Do I kill this rare monster at all? Maybe I just decide it's not worth it. Or you decide, okay, yes, I am going to kill it, but now I actually have to engage with its monster mods for longer. You've got to get the ROP rewards right, though, on that. There has to be a real benefit to spending the extra time to kill a monster, and they also have to get it right so that people who are capable of running tier 15 and 16 maps don't down tier to tier 8s and just look for the overpowered Titan monsters. So it's very difficult to solve, but I feel like you could have an interesting situation where there's just much more variance in the power level of these rare monster mods, but the ones that got a terrifying mod have to be identifiable really quickly.
I will just say that I think PoE 2 already does this quite well with the unique monsters. Like Lolcohol was touching on that. Like the monster design for the monsters that can become rare are already quite interesting in some cases. The kind of Pantheon Touch monsters that Sirgog was touching on there, I feel like part of the reason why those monster modifiers exist is because PoE 1's rare monsters are just not that interesting, no matter what like type of monster it is. Whereas I don't think PoE 2 has that issue, right? I think that you can have like really interesting monsters when you take some of those particular ones, like you were talking about the hag, the big like skeletons that fall on you, the things that like jump out of the ground in Act 2 and like slam you, right? Those things deal a lot of damage. All those things are kind of interesting in their own way, and the idea of like this monster becoming, you know, going from like a normal monster that just does this, then it's like a magic monster which is maybe, you know, little bit tankier, perhaps it's a little bit faster, whatever, just kind of simplistic. But when it gets to rare, it's like you need to have like Lolcohol was saying, you need to preserve the monster. Like it has to still fundamentally be the same monster with those mechanics preserved, but it needs to kind of present kind of somewhat of an interesting thing. That way the rare modifiers can't be ridiculous like they were in Arch Nemesis, right? That's what was kind of wrong there.
Right.
And again, that's another PoE1 specific problem, which is why those modifiers were a thing. It's because the monsters are just not that interesting when you compare them across the board. Whereas PoE2 does already have interesting monsters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think PoE2 already does this quite well.
It does actually. Yeah.
I just want
almost, yeah.
If they really want to kind of realize that, they are already going in the right direction, in my opinion, with this change to the amount of monsters that there are in a map. Maybe they can then focus on like the encounters specifically later on. Like once they have the density correct, and you can kind of feel like you can fight this monster one-on-one almost, right? It's just your character versus this pack of monsters. You kill the ads, then it's versus the rare, right? Rather than like there's 5 rares around you, which is what was going on. Like you just 5 rares are walking towards you, right? And one of them's like blinking onto you, and there's another one's got like a mana siphoner, right?
5 abyssal rares. Just...
yeah, exactly. So like, yeah, I do want to say that I think PoE2 does already do this quite well. It's just it's just and it is very difficult to balance. Like it's so hard for them to balance it because what I go back to the first point I made, which is weaker builds are going to suffer more, right? With this, like they will just struggle more and more if like the monsters are really difficult on rares, whereas the strong builds are just gonna blast, which is the case for most of the content. But when you have like monsters that are just not doing many mechanics and they're just kind of like life sponge, then it's a bit different.
Not fun.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that was probably my favorite discussion we've ever had. So that was like all meaningful takes from all you guys. I thought that was really, really cool and insightful.
That was good.
I hope that they listen a little bit. And yeah, I think it all comes down to that balance aspect right now. It'll be really interesting to wait and see how it plays out. Coming Friday, it'll be interesting. Okay, earlier we did talk a little bit about Fate of the Vaal. Dreamcore says, "Oh, the patch hinges on Fate of the Vaal." If Druids, messed up because of the balance. So, because the league mechanic, the pitch is pretty big, right? It looks far more in depth than anything they've done recently in PoE1 or PoE2. So, I'd love to hear your like top level takes. First on Queen Atziri, what do you guys think? Was the design a W? Do you guys like her design?
Yeah, 4 out of 4 for me.
4 out of 4? Okay.
Yeah. No. the visuals and the atmosphere is like incredible. It looks beautiful. The designs of the areas. So just in terms of like an aesthetic level, I'm very excited to go to that place. And then the mechanic, I don't know. It looks very exciting. It's got that sort of like incursion meets synthesis meets heist vibe to it that I'm also really, really hoping. And I think, like Dream said, a lot of the league is going to hinge on that, because if it is very, very engaging, it might be something that could keep you still going on the league, even though
like
we don't
loop.
have the endgame.
It might have a nice loop to it. If it's balanced,
it could have a really good loop
that like has those rewards in place, and you're consistently getting like cool crafting opportunities.
Exactly.
If there are loot drops, it could be that, not the fix to endgame, but like a temporary supplement to endgame.
Exactly.
Right. So that's how I saw it.
Yeah.
Because it looks very quick. Like you very quickly build up your temple. Like what is it? Every 5 maps or something, you basically have a new section to explore. If I understood it properly.
Unless you do one of the bosses in there.
Right.
Then that'll nuke a fair bit of your temple.
Yep. Okay.
There's a lot of really, really interesting, unique rewards in that temple, which I like a lot. That is something that I really hope they preserve in PoE 2. That they did over time. This got worse and worse in PoE 1, where like unique rewards started to like bleed out into loads of other mechanics, and then it's like, well, why do I delve? Because I'm just getting fossils from Legion, this kind of stuff, right? I I hope that PoE 2 preserves this, and for the temple specifically, there are so many interesting, unique rewards in there. The double corruption chamber, double corruption gem chamber, the one that like you can place a Vaal unique in there and like remove a mod and add a new mod. That's really cool. Adding modifiers to your body parts. I mean, who saw that coming, right? That's just absolutely crazy.
Replacing your body parts. What the heck? Like the aesthetic and everything, dude. That's so wild.
Also, what's the over or under on that particular mechanic unlocking a secret ascendancy?
I think you're right. For like all classes.
Not all classes, just one.
Just one, yeah.
Just one secret ascendancy. It's probably going to be Gemling, right? Surely, but
Gemling makes sense.
Robot Legionnaire, something like that.
I think, or just some kind of like something that like plays more into the whole like you know gems in your skin type thing.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but that's quite possibly right. On the Atziri design, like I kind of just from a streamer perspective only, I wish that it was not what in Australia would be MA rated. I think it's like it's somewhere between PG-13 and R for those of you watching from the United States is our MA rating. It's like the cinemas would turn away an under 15 unless they're with a parent or guardian. That's the way that the rating works here. So it was an MA rated clip, which was a bit of a shock because I'm like, oh, I've just streamed this to both YouTube and Twitch. I better go and delete that from the VOD afterwards. What's the timestamp? Oh, it's like 38 minutes and 35 seconds or whatever. I better just write that one down and make sure that as soon as it's a VOD, that gets clipped out. So that was just something that was a bit of a nuisance there from my perspective, but doesn't affect players. Like players probably do like that MA or R-rated level of stuff a bit more often, especially when it's Atziri. But other than that, like I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on. On Dream's idea about having like this real strictness of identity for League things, I actually want them to try something a bit different. I want them to try, and this is going to use Path of Exile 1 examples here for those of you that don't play Path of Exile 1. The items that sound like they're really rare in this are. I feel like it'd be interesting if Asenath's Gentle Touch, to take an item that was historically associated with Legion for a period. In Path of Exile 1, this is a tier 3 rarity drop anywhere unique. So it's about 60 times as common as the rarest uniques, and it's about 6 times as it's about 6 times as rare as the most common uniques. Asenath's Gentle Touch, I think, would be really interesting if it was made Headhunter rarity from any monster in the game. But when you're fighting Legion monsters, it's tier 5 rarity. I feel like that would play really well. You could get this cool drop anywhere, because part of the problem with PoE 1 is that the drop anywhere loot gets a bit dull after time. You can get this really exciting drop anywhere in the game, but you probably won't unless you're engaging with Legion. And I feel like that's a mechanic that could exist elsewhere. And they sort of did it a little bit with Delve, but they needed to make Prime Resonators rarer in other content. I don't think they've got it right with Delve, but there's a bunch of things they could do. Anyways, that's something I'd like to see generally be the case. I thought I'd done it a little bit in Path of Exile 1 with like, there's a divination card for Veiled Exalted Orbs that I think comes from just killing regular monsters in one specific tileset map, but it's crazy rare, so you may as well just do Katarina instead, but you might just occasionally get one of these things.
So it would be like many uniques are now game-wide. They're rare, but when you do their league-specific content, you're much more likely to get it essentially. So maybe like with the Temple of Atziri, much more likely to get all these Vaal uniques that you can then edit inside the temple as opposed to it being a world drop. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, my goal would be that across a trade league, the 10% of people that do that mechanic generate 90% of the loot that is tied to it, but the other 90% that don't do the mechanic do generate 10%.
I think that's a cool idea.
I mean, that makes sense that like Legion uniques are dropping, within the thing mostly because then those people are also interacting with the temple, so they're unlocking those rooms to be able to actually modify those items, which is a. But then obviously, like the temple still gets to keep like its unique rewards as well, like the double. I mean, double corruption, for example, is going to be something that's just always valuable. I really liked that about Incursion in PoE1, the way that this mechanic kind of like, let's say you had a league where like, I don't know, Legion is like the meta farming strat, but you're becoming priced out of it, or perhaps you don't like Legion, perhaps you don't have a build to even do it, right? And instead you're doing like Incursion, which might not be very meta, but at least there's always the value there. There's always people double corrupting items, right? There's always people looking for those 21, 23 gems. I think that's what it's going to be like in PoE2. The value's just going to be always there for that mechanic. As long as it's something that you can actually reasonably farm and obtain those things, which it looks like they've thought about that quite a bit in terms of like when you come to actually completing the temple. If you don't kill Atziri, I think if I heard this correctly, if you don't actually farm Atziri at the end, you don't have that like full reset thing of the temple. Only some of the rooms get like removed. Then you have to like build the temple again. I think they said that.
Can I clarify that? I think it's a severe reset if you kill Atziri. It's a moderate reset if you kill one of her lieutenants, and it's a negligible reset if you don't.
Right. Yeah. And then that kind of makes sense, because the way that works is like in a trade league, the value of Atziri's uniques then kind of balances out the other things, because it's like if there's a really valuable unique on Atziri's loot table, people want to farm that, which means a direct lessening of all the other stuff, right? Because the temples constantly get reset. It then takes longer to get those things again, which I actually really like that. So that's a pretty cool mechanic overall.
I know, Sirgog, you added the note in about talking about the fate of the Vaal temple juicing meta. Do you want to expand on that point? Do you think like are there going to be like, is there going to be one layout essentially that everybody's going to copy? Do you think they are going to get the balance right, where there's several different ways you can form your temple? What do you think is going to happen there?
So I think at the moment we've got like, this is the thing they discussed during the Q&A. There's what you might term just naive incursions into the temple. This is where you just go in there, you explore stuff, you kill monsters, you don't really think that much about it. That's the level 1 strategy. The level 2 strategy is going to be targeting mini bosses, so not Atziri, but the other ones. Level 3 strategy is going to be targeting Atziri, and the level 4 strategy is going to be not targeting the bosses intentionally in order to juice the temple up and stack as many multipliers. Kind of like a lot of Synthesis is a long time ago, but those of you that played Path of Exile 1 during Synthesis will have a bit of a sense as to just how wild that could get, because you could just stack new modifiers on every tile from a whole lot of different sources. So if they get it right, this could be really interesting. What I'm concerned might happen is they don't get this right, and that we end up with a very well-defined meta that is basically like the 2552 betrayal strategies from Path of Exile 1's pre 3.27 patches that were very much, okay, you just set up to do this same very routine thing over and over again, and that is the mathematically best way to play this content. They actually went and nerfed that pretty hard, and now betrayal is like, there's not much min-maxing in it, so there's different ways you can approach it, but there's not much min-maxing left in it. The min-maxing I don't think was very fun though, so it's kind of a bit of a mess.
Yeah, what'd be really fun is what'd be really fun is if they get the reward balance right, but then also get the challenge between the different things right. Like if Atziri is a really hard boss with a very strong drop table, then it incentivizes, okay, I'm a Atziri killer versus I have good clear, and then I can get all these rewards. It probably will get to the point where this is the most efficient way to run it, but it would be awesome if it was like, this is the best way to run it if you're a boss, or this is the best way to run it if you're not. Yeah, that's ideal.
I really hope there's some other great uniques on Atziri. Like, don't get me wrong, that staff looked really cool. But it's not enough. Like on its own, there needs to be some really good rewards on there, especially some like generic rewards that are kind of good for a lot of builds. I don't know if they're going to have that like maybe like a jewel or something. I don't know whether they'll end up doing something like that.
The super modal uniques, like I always use Watcher's Eye from PoE1 as the example here, but Prism of Belief from Path of Exile 2 is just this perfect design there where if you get the item, you're like, okay, cool, I can sell this as it is, unidentified, and someone that's a gambler will buy it. but this has a chance to be the best. This has a chance to be a not one of a kind on the server, but a like fewer than 1,000 of this item exist on the entire server if it rolls well.
I
That's
love
a
And you have-
those.
good feeling.
Yeah, that is a cool item for sure.
And you have lots of other examples of it from Path of Exile 1 as well. You've got Light of Meaning, for instance, is a modal unique that is a much higher drop rate of a perfect Light of Meaning for your build than Prism of Belief has in PoE 2 or Forbidden Jewels have in PoE 2. But again, it's that same sort of dynamic where you can have a unique item that actually has so many different variants of it that the specific one you want is unfathomably rare. It's really valuable in trade, but you feel like you've got a good chance of getting it sometimes when you kill a boss.
Right. They have
And
to.
realistically, a Watcher's Eye in Path of Exile 1, it is just an item that has a 2 in a million drop rate, except there are something like 125,000 different ones of them. So a lot of the times you actually can get something that might just be close to what you want.
I reckon there's going to be some unique on Atziri that has to do with items being corrupted on yourself and buffing up your power, kind of like the Trial Master, the Lineage Ascendancy? What is it? Bloodline Ascendancy.
Bloodline,
From
yeah.
PoE 1. I wonder if they'll kind of steal that or just lift that design and implement it as one of those chase rewards for Atziri. And I really hope. I was disappointed with the Vessel of Kulamak boss fight. I'm hoping that Atziri is a good boss fight when you're first fighting her that second time, and it's a real push pull, and she's got some real mechanics. So, okay, you guys. I think I had one more topic that I wanted to kind of touch on with you guys here. Were there anything that you guys wanted to bring up that we may have missed out on? Anything?
Oh, there's that misconceptions one that we skipped over, like the Fate of the Vaal. Like the most commonly thing I've seen people get wrong is that every item in the game can have a modifier removed from it and replaced with something else. So every unique. It is only a slim selection of them, very similar to the Foulborn items. For those of you that play Path of Exile 1 as well, it is not the case that you can just get every unique in the game modified this way.
Did I read the loot filter notes correctly? Are they adding like a Vaal unique tag to these items in game, or are you just gonna need to know? Oh, that looks Valley. Okay, let's try to bring it to the temple.
I was thinking that as well. Yeah, like, do you have to be like a lore nerd to like know which items?
My time to shine. Our time to shine, guys.
Yeah.
Has Vaal unique mod is a keyword that can be true or false. Is Vaal unique is also has a true or false value on it. So
Okay.
I think that means that
That's good. Yeah.
you can have is or is not Foulborn is one, and also does or a Foulborn item with or without one of these mods, because you could have an item that's like, I don't know, what's a Glimpse of Chaos, I think is probably a Vaal item. You could have a Glimpse of Chaos that is corrupted but does not have a Vaal unique mod. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in the loot filter info for that.
Very cool.
That's good. Yeah.
All right. So I know we talked about this briefly at the start, but I think it would be a great way to close it out, you guys. Final predictions from each of us on how the patch is going to go. I think we're going to do another one of these in a few weeks. We haven't set a date and time yet, but it'll probably be around the same time. This seems to work for everybody. So we can revisit these predictions as Dreamcore. I saw you revisited your buff nerf predictions and like your patch note video. I thought that was such a good idea. Nobody ever does that. So yeah.
Well, I had a bunch of people asking for it. Like every single predictions video I have, people say like make a video afterwards to like close out the predictions.
And you did it, the full loop. There you go. So we'll have to do the same thing.
I didn't want to like make a whole video on it, right? I just done it at the end of the winners and losers video. But yeah,
smart way to do it. So we can do the same thing here. So I'd love to go round table and get predictions on how this patch is going to go and be received by the general PoE community. And then I'd also love to hear what you're going to be eating on League Start Day, guys. What's your meal prep plans? Who wants to go first? I'll ask for volunteers, I suppose.
I volunteer Lolcohol.
You what?
You volunteered as tribute.
Oh yeah, I'm volunteered. Predictions. People are gonna be there's gonna be like half the community is gonna be super angry, but they're always angry no matter what happens. They need to see therapists. It's not the game's fault. It's a you problem. And then they'll stop playing and then go do something. Actually, no, they won't. They'll probably just stay on Reddit and be angry for another 2 weeks before PoE1 hype cycle starts. And then the rest of us will probably desperately try to give like valid criticism, get called out as haters for it, and then I don't know. And then the grenades will get nerfed like halfway through the league. And I'm gonna have fun regardless.
Okay, what
That's
are you
my
eating?
prediction.
What are you eating? You gotta eat
What am I
something
eating?
too. Yeah.
I don't know.
Come on, you eat
Apples?
apple. Hey,
Just
look
apples.
at that. I got
You
an
got
apple right
apples,
here. Yeah,
dude.
look,
Red
yeah.
apples,
Dude,
such a good
Look
snack.
how big this is. This is like a fifth of my head. Huge apple.
That is a good apple.
Not a
Apples?
natural apple.
You guys should eat apples. And then, dude, I don't know. I normally like just get a knock on my door because it's League Star weekend is, it is an acceptable thing in this household where it's like I am just locking myself in the room for 2 days, and then I'll sometimes get a knock on the door and it's like food. Okay, it's like I'm a prisoner. So I don't know, but apples, man,
Okay. All right.
eat those.
That sounds good. Dreamcore, you volunteered before Sirgog
Yeah,
pushed
I'll say-
Lolcohol in front of you.
I think that the Druid is probably going to be mixed reception, mostly because there's just going to be a bit of like this skill is just crazy. This skill is really weak. Like I think there's going to be a lot of that. Like there's going to be a lot of imbalance between the Druid skills, and people are going to have really mixed reaction to like how their league starter goes. I think the temple is going to be good. I actually just think it looks good, so I'm just going to go with it. I think that's going to be a good mechanic. And for what I'm eating, I'll be eating chili. I'm sure I'll make like a big chili.
Oh, what kind of meat?
Beef.
Beef? Okay. All right. Respectable. Respectable.
Yeah, big chili.
Big chili. All right. Spicy or not spicy?
Mid spicy, not too spicy.
Okay. Okay.
It's got to have a bit of spice.
All right. Sirgog, what do you think? How's it gonna go? Pessimist.
Okay. I think that there's this issue where this might be too much player agency for some people, because there's the freedom to make bad mistakes is something that some people like having, that some people do not. And the people who don't like it, I don't think are going to like the incursion mechanic. I hope that it ends up going at the better end of where I think it is, but I'm genuinely really unsure on it. As for the Druid, I am not league starting one because I just don't know whether it's a good idea or not. I'm very nervous about it because of all the balance things we've been talking about. I feel like Reddit is going to be on fire. Reddit is always on fire, but I'm not going to make concrete predictions about what. So for 3.27 in Path of Exile 1, I was saying Reddit will be on fire because of loot starvation early on, and that was based upon the fact that asynchronous trade was added, and that would therefore result in a bunch of things that were previously loot feeling like not loot anymore, and that ended up actually, I think, being worse than I expected. Like things like Guardian maps that I thought would remain loot for longer ended up really cratering early. So that was something I was confident about predicting. This time, asynchronous trade's been great, but it had its consequences, and that was that one. I don't feel like there's anything that's being done here that has obvious consequences, the way that async trade was going to make people complain about loot. So with all of that in mind, I am just sort of going in a bit apprehensive because we don't know very much. I hope that it ends up doing better than I fear it might, and I guess we shall find out. Food-wise, I'm definitely going to get cold meat, and I think you might have talked me into going and doing something a bit more proper with cooking stuff. So go and get some southern fried chicken tenders from the chicken place that's nearby. Cook them up on Friday night. So league starts 6 a.m. my local on Saturday. Cook them up on Friday night and get some rolls and get some lettuce and have some good old-fashioned chicken and lettuce rolls on Saturday as well. That would be helpful. But most importantly, I'll have caffeine.
What is your sauce of choice with your chicken tenders?
Would you believe I'm one of those really boring people that, like, I just had
No.
a few food intolerances as a kid. I didn't like trying things, and as a result, I just got used to having things without sauce, and I don't generally like sauce, even though, but not like I have intolerances to them. I just prefer the blandness.
No spice, no sauce, no spice, plain southern fried chicken tender. Lemon?
Squeeze a lemon.
A lemon?
Yeah, lemon's all right
Just-
if I'm in the right mood, but most of the time I'm not.
Okay. All right. That sounds really yummy. All right. I'll close it out with my really brief predictions, you guys. I think that the wolf form is going to be a standout for the druid. I think bear is going to be severely either like underpowered or just clunky to play based on what I've seen. Hey, I'm starting bear, so I'll find out firsthand. I just am worried with the like the pushiness that appears to be. I like was rewatching some footage last night, and it looks like monsters will like push the bear, and you're so huge. So I feel like that'll cause a lot of anger, and I'm hoping that maybe there's some quick buffs to make bears heavier in relations to monster stuff like that. I think there's going to be some funky bugs in maps, and like just traversing everything with the shape-shifting forms. How's the wyvern going to fit through the doors? Like, what's that going to look like? Is it going to be like? I feel like there's going to be some funny clips that are emerging, and
that would be amazing if they made an animation just for that, where the wyvern like closes its wings like as it goes through a door. Can you imagine?
Imagine that at really high move speed.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
oh, it's gonna be good. I do agree that I think the druid is probably going to be underpowered. I don't think it will be like undercooked. Like I think there's a lot there, but I think it'll be underpowered and very reliant on comboing certain skills together and having certain buffs active and ready to go. Yeah, I think there will be a lot of upset about that. I think the one qualm that might happen with the temple is that the loot might be undertuned since they're baking so much power, it seems, in the crafting benches. I'm just scared because it's like it's separate from maps. It's probably gonna have a little bit separate balance. I think once people like first walk in and you don't have a full temple and you clear those first few rooms and you don't really get anything, maybe people are gonna be like, oh. And so maybe there'll be some snap reactions there. Anything else? I also want to predict, we didn't even talk about this. I think the performance improvements are going to be praised by Reddit, by Discord, by everybody. If we get in game and it's not the 40% minimum, and I saw an article where Jonathan's like, actually, it's 50% now. We've made some. If it's not massively improved, I will be kind of shocked. So we'll have to find out on League launch day, guys. Right? Right.
That is actually we didn't talk about that, but if the performance is bad, that is going to be terrible. Like that is actually going to be terrible because like especially when I think is this the first time that they've like brought it up in a live stream like that? Because I remember there was like people were asking for performance for a long time. They haven't actually they have done some fixes in the background, like small ones in like little patches, but they haven't actually talked about it like that on the live stream where it's actually a segment of the live stream. Like if people log in on launch day and there's bad performance, it is actually going to be like it's just going to be terrible.
It will.
And you know what else is going to happen there? You're going to have a situation where they might have performance be enormously better for 92% of the player base, but for 8% of hardware configurations, it's moderately worse. Now, have a guess which people are going to be on Reddit talking about performance. If you guessed it will be the majority, then you don't know how Reddit works. So it could be like that, or it could be a situation where it's better for 99.92% and 0.08% end up in a really bad spot because they've got a specific driver that causes crashes, or it could be that it's a dumpster fire. But the problem is that if it's a dumpster fire and if it is a situation where it's a massive improvement for 92% and a degradation for 8%, Reddit's going to look the same. And that's the really hard part to try and figure out which of those situations is the actual reality. I do not envy Granny Gear Games having to do that.
Yeah, they obviously put a lot of work into the performance improvements, like you said, Dream. Like they haven't highlighted it before. They kind of were just like, yeah, we're gonna address it, and then literally like 6 minutes of the live stream, we're talking about performance, how they improved it, all that stuff. It's like the header and all the news releases, 50% increased frames and everything. So I really do hope it helps because that was across all videos I made last league, all feedback, the biggest complaint, it was, I cannot play the game. I want to play the game, but because it's not running well, I can't play it. So if that's fixed, hey, hopefully more people get to experience the goodness in this patch. So, okay, you guys, Excellent chat. Thank you so much for joining in as always. Everybody in the live chat, everybody watching on YouTube, the VOD, make sure like the video, comment below, and go and check out each one of these guys' YouTube channels and Mobalytics pages. They write guides. They talk about, you know, unique items on Mobalytics. They're going to have builds I'm sure they're going to release. Thank you so much to Mobalytics for juicing the Pod of Exile. As always, we will revisit 0.4 in just a few weeks. Hopefully it goes off without a hitch. Last minute, anything else you guys want to add?
So I'd like to just shout out the campaign Codex Discord. This God, this is so natural. So for anyone who does want to learn the campaign a bit better, there's the Discord that I started a few months ago. It's suddenly almost at 4,000 people, which is crazy. It started out as like tiny little project where like me and Guitaraholic were just trying to figure out some layouts in the campaign. And now it's like, it's blown up, and people like Angormis came from there. Well, I mean, I'm sure they were doing their own thing, but like those guys, Angormis, Guy That Dies, Limburgo, all these top speedrunners were part of that server before anyone seemed to know who they were. And then like after that first race, there was like, the guy who was in the server was the guy who won the first race. It's like, what's his name? Oh, it's Angormis. And now it's like a PoE household name. So for people who want to learn the campaign better, you can go check it out. Actually, can I spam it in your chat?
You can spam it in chat, Discord? And the link will be in the description, guys.
There we go. But it's a cool place.
Yep.
If you want to get better at PoE, go check it out.
Thanks, guys. Let's smile and wave. Smile and wave, guys. Smile and wave.
Oh.
All right, there we go. I'll add this at the very, very end. I will be eating Mediterranean food, most likely. That's what I'm going for.